enjoying it to this point anyway. And if not, let us know what we can do to help, except for money. That's the problem. If you run out of money, that's you're on your own there. This would just like to announce we do have the drawing. The drawing will be tomorrow at the banquet on the Roadshow Variant Bowl, which has been on display there at the registration booth. The tickets are $1 per ticket, and if you buy 10, we'll give you 2 additional tickets for that. So if you haven't taken all the chances you want to take, I see Doug Peters, and he still has some tickets left. The drawing will be tomorrow night at the banquet, so don't miss out. You could be the lucky winner. Room display judging will be this afternoon, and if you have not registered your room display, please do so in room 226 with Charlotte, Peters, or Doug. Make sure your name is on the list, and you are, so they will get around to judge your room. So the judging will be tomorrow then from 3 to 5 o'clock. So make sure that you're, today, but today from 3 to 5, make sure your room is viewable, your display is viewable. The judges will be coming around to make that judging. Most of you have seen the little souvenir plate we've had made this year, the little red one. Some of them available. We'd much rather, if you want one, we'd much rather you take it home with you in your car and the shipping to you. If you get home and decide you want some more, well, let us know. We'll be glad to ship it. The notebook fillers are now available. If you registered early, the notebook fillers were not here. UPS had them on their trucking them around in Kansas City, but they finally didn't arrive. And, so if you paid for a notebook filler and have not picked them up, see one of us and we'll hustle some of those up for you so you'll have those. The roster, we made a new roster this year. So if you want a roster, see one of us, Doug Peters or myself or some of the other local people, we'll find you a roster to take back home with you. Keeping with educational programs for those members attending the convention, I knew that Clint and Gene Fox, maybe Gene Fox and Clint, collected Hatpins. Mrs. Chris Reynolds collects Hatpins, and I think Sherry Caesar collects Hatpins, and so a few people kind of kept those things kind of hid. So they have been coming out of the woods here lately. A little bit more interest, and so we thought it would be time to have a good program and expose some of these people who have been collecting all these Hatpins. But anyway, Clint did talk to the Texas convention this year, so he got his preliminary run there, so he's perfecting his talk as he goes along. So I'm sure Carl, if you need him somewhere else along the way, he's just getting perfected. He's getting better as he goes through here. So
we like professionals.
So if you have any ideas, I can pretty sure come see you while you suggest that too. So, anyway, but we do appreciate your Clint and Gene for bringing this display and setting it up and showing it and putting on this program for us. I think Gene's going to be doing the hard part. She's going to be operating the machine, and Clint's going to be doing the talking. So anyway, we appreciate your efforts and hope you all enjoy it. Clint?
A number of years ago, I helped organize the Young Mineral Club. We had a common organization. Now, the gentleman who was liked it. He was part of the joke. So he
Right here.
across the stage, and I'm sorry. There is. I assume that there is behind the door.
That one's
it. Over to your left. That's all right, I'll just get a little closer to the microphone. Anyway, this gentleman paraded back and forth across the stage and started cracking his jokes. And of course, I was sitting at the back of the room helping critique. And he told the first joke, and we laughed good. Told the second joke, and we laughed louder. This kept on and kept on. He later was telling the story, well, you know, he says, I thought I was pretty good at telling those jokes. Everybody did real well. But old Clint was just sitting back there just dying laughing. He said, I knew they weren't that good. Finally, well, I got his attention. It took about 20 minutes. And his pants were unzipped. Oh, by that time, everybody knew it, but he finally managed to find the podium. So we'll try not to, I think I've checked out, but we'll try not to have too many laughs. Hatpins have been around since the early 1800s, and various kinds. The ladies wore great big hairdos, great big hats, and it varied as time went by. They were somewhat popular, really usable until somewhere around 1930. Now they took on many forms during that period of time. The little hat in the center there is just a general collection of hat pins that you just kind of see them, pick them up as you go along. And even those are getting a little bit expensive just to pick up out of your pocket change regularly. You'll see that there's quite a number there, and believe there are probably thousands and thousands of different types and different styles, different patterns. The hat pin, like I said, was used primarily to hold large hats on. Ladies liked to add hair and have great hairdos. The Carnival pins, like the Carnival glass, came along somewhere in the 1900s, 1910. And apparently, best guess is they started waning in the early 20s. They didn't have too long to stay. The worst part of the hat pins when you get into the Carnival glass is that no one really knows who made them, where they were made, what colors they were put in. They sort of appeared, and many of them still stay around. They're probably seeing the pins I have seen, the pictures I have seen, they're probably very easily 125 to 150 patterns. You can see pictures and hat pins today of somewhere in the vicinity of 70 patterns. Jerry Reynolds has some that are not in this collection. It has a very nice display in her room, and that is her display for this year. I want to thank Jerry and Sherry and Carl Booker. Carl Booker is a teacher in Never Makes Part of America. He and his wife both teach, and apparently they have quite a difficult time getting off. He has probably the most extensive collection that I know of. There are undoubtedly others, as usual, that no one is really aware of. Marianne Hartung, Rose Presnick, both mention their hat pins in their books, but not to great extent. Rose Presnick probably covered them a little bit better than Marianne Hartung. Hartung didn't believe in buttons and hat pins in the beginning, but she began to recognize that there were such things in her book 7 and covered them with patterns as well as possible after that. Our main purpose today, so far as I'm concerned, is to let everybody know that yes, there are a number of nice hat pins out there. Some of them appear to be quite scarce. A number of them are very, very desirable. Most all of them are pretty. Like Carnival glass, some of them the iridizing is much better than the others. But you know, our worst problem is that faces us right now compared to the Carnival glass is that there was a nice lady named Marion Hartton who took the Carnival glass under her wing, and she went through and named the patterns in such a way that you could look at the piece of glass and derive the pattern. They attempted to make those patterns descriptive. That starts to get quite difficult with some hat pins. But Jerry Reynolds is attempting to write a book, and maybe we can get some consistency in the pattern titles, pattern names. If anyone has hat pins that they don't see here today, and they're only like 27 or 28, no, I take it back, about 30 to 35 patterns on this table. There are another 25 to 30 different patterns in pictures over here that Carl Booker supplied. Anyone that has any pattern that's not showing up there, I'm sure Jerry would appreciate knowing. And either Jerry or Sherry or I will be glad to pass it on and attempt to get that recorded also. The hat pin really had quite a long run. Actually, its run, its Carnival glass, of course, was about like the Carnival glass pieces that we collect. But the hat pin in its shape and form, that was really almost 100 years of popularity. Needless to say that they varied in sizes. The pins obviously fit the need. Some of them became quite dangerous. They didn't always fit the need. Some of them were a little long. The ladies held their hats on with them, and not always were particularly careful. My father tells the story of being on a train, and a lady was standing in the aisle talking, and the conductor wanted his ticket, so he came along and he tapped her on the shoulder, and she suddenly turned around. And so doing, she pierced his upper lip completely through both sides with one nice long hat pin. Apparently this wasn't an unusual event. They became quite dangerous once the ladies started traveling public transportation and started going out by themselves and becoming a little more open with their lives. So constantly in England and in the East, there was even legislation attempted to prevent the ladies from wearing these hat pins. They tried to outlaw them. They also became very lethal weapons, and some of the ladies carried them for protection. So they've had quite a varied experience. The later hat pins, as the hair grew shorter and the hats grew smaller, came up with a very short shanks, and most of them then became a little less ornate, a little not quite as heavy, and evolved into a very sharp, small hat pin. Now, many of those did not have the weight and size. They were very large sizes that you could, of course, wear on the big hats. Along with that, they even evolved into stick pins for the men. Now, hat pins, obviously the ones in the little hat in the center there are, they're very definitely hat pins. Most all of the Carnival glass pins have cone shanks. Now those cone shanks allow you to use that either for a hat pin or a button. Many of the older antique collectors or real antique collectors will deny there is such a thing as a Carnival glass hat pin. They say, oh, you people have taken your taken buttons and converted them to hat pins. So that's, you put a pin in it and call it a hat pin. Well, that's the way they're made. Apparently, most of the pins that we see were made in the Jablonic area of Bohemia, which during or after World War II became, or World War I, became Czechoslovakia. Now, this area is very close to the border of Austria, and also that they did a lot of decorative type glass work in that area. Most of them, the glass is essentially black. If you could get a little color through one once in a while, well, you do get the color toward a very, very dark amethyst, but it's nearly impossible to get that much light through it. The Americans apparently made Carnival glass hat pins. Ruth Clark says that, and apparently in some of the publications of the button people, claimed that there was an American manufacturer who claimed credit for making most of the cone shank pins that we see today. I've never been able to identify that manufacturer. If anyone's aware of who it is, I would appreciate knowing. Necessarily agree that most that we see were made in America. The black, both in blown glass, which are the geometrical center, and the black molded hat pins that we see, I feel quite surely came from Czechoslovakia. Now, presumably, these were very heavily produced before World War I. But during World War I, there were no shipments made. So, immediately after World War I, then many were shipped to the United States. And just in boxes, no pins, no clasp, no button hooks, just as the ornament itself. From there, then they were distributed into shops who put different types of hat pin stems on them. Now, American made, so far as I'm concerned, and there's nothing I've read or anything else, but on the end down here, we have our little chicken bin. There's all of the rooster colors that I know of. There are duplicates in it, but there are about 10 different colors of the rooster. Now, that's the American way. You have a mold you take advantage of. You can produce quite cheaply if you do not have to repeat in the mold. I'd say that probably that style pin and a few similar to that, yes, they were probably American made. Anyone with knowledge to the contrary, again, I appreciate it. There are pins of just the shapes and sizes probably in this 125 range. They're like in the Carnival glass. They're the animals, the insects, birds, geometrical patterns, flowers. Most all of them are a very pretty pattern. Some of them not quite as nice as the others. This program, obviously you can't see the pins from out there, so we have attempted to make a few slides. And we'll show those and go through fairly well agreed on names. There'll still be some disputes on those. Hopefully, if someone knows a published name or any one of the pins that we show, that we can make that correction or at least chase down where it's published.
A few of them we don't find published names on. We tried to name them in some reasonable manner. The hatpin holders, we have a few slides on those. There are only 5 different patterns in the hatpin holders that we are aware of. Never say that's all. There may be another dozen out there that there's one of a kind that hasn't shown up, or there may be hundreds of them. But the grating cable at Northwood was made, for some reason or another, has just a standard grating cable, and then the ring is just a band, and they call that the grating cable banded. There's a good example, I believe that's a blue one, John Fred's, has a few hat pins in it there. The banded only comes in the 3 colors, I believe. It's the blue, the amethyst, and marigold. The regular grating cable has quite a selection of marigold, amethyst, lavender, green, peach opal, ice blue, ice cream, and white with a yellow top, aqua opal, and the chocolate one that is sitting as the 3rd one. The butterfly and berry, the banded grating cable, and the chocolate grating cable are all John Fred's. All 3 of them are very, very nice pieces.
The chocolate is orange tree.
I'm sorry, butterfly and berry. And yes, the chocolate is orange tree, it's not grating cable. Hatpin holders on the other end down there are just a general selection of hatpin holders. There's nothing unique about them. There's a holder souvenir. It holds hatpins just as good as the chocolate one, but probably a whole lot safer. The ceramic ones, they are available. They make very nice selection. They make very nice hatpin holders. If you have hatpins, you got to put them in something. We just sold all ours, so we're using everything that we can find. Probably the next most popular pattern after the grating cable is the orange tree, and in it there's only about 5 colors: the marigold, blue, white, green, and peach opal. He would say the peach opal, there are not very many of them. The green one is probably the next most scarce. There have been a few of those show up.
Have you seen the white one, Clint?
Yes.
Oh.
As a matter of fact, in our beginning days of doubting and thinking everything's new just because it looks that way,
Yeah.
we did not buy one for $100. And it was unfortunate that we didn't do it. It was in an antique shop, I believe. That's probably about the only piece of Carnival they had in the whole place. The butterfly and berry is very desirable. The blue is probably the most common. The marigold is it's quite difficult to come by. Demands a very good price. The one we do not have a sample of, and there are those people who deny that the formal is a hatpin holder. Well, I think that you can call it a hatpin holder. There are 2 shapes. One is a very definite vase, most common in the jack and pulpit, and it's a vase. The one with the closed-in top is very usable as a hatpin holder. It doesn't have the nice flames forward in to help separate the hatpins, but it does make a very nice hatpin holder. And most people accept it as a hatpin holder if they don't. It I think that it's about all that we can say about the origin, color, and whatnot. You'll find the same pattern, such as what's being called as plums. Different iridizing. They'll iridize the plums, paint the black, or the back part black, or leave it unfinished. They might iridize the background, leave the plums unfinished. It may all be iridized. So you'll find that in each of the patterns that, in all probability, you'll find, just like in the Carnival glass, you'll find that there are different iridizing techniques used on each of them. Between the bat and the plums, you can probably have 8 or 10 different hatpins that look quite different. Some of the hatpins, when you come to look at them, some of the hatpins may not have any iridizing. The bat, for instance, has the gold top with the stars in the background. The bat may not be iridized. But this is just to show you that there is quite a wide selection, even on each of the patterns. Any questions on any of them as we, after we complete the slides? I'm sure that Jerry and Sherry and I and Gene can give some explanation, or will attempt to. I think that probably we should go on the slides now. And all we try to do is just give you the name. These are probably the most common hatpins that you'll see. They happen to be the ones we have in our collection, with the exception of 2. And they're one of the ones I had the opportunity to make slides on. Besides the fact that this runs out just about as long as we can stand it anyway. Gene, would you turn
You want to put out the lights back here, Jack?
I need to turn this off.
If anyone has any difficulty in seeing it, those lights.
See that? Go ahead and turn it on. Let's see if the light spot in the light it does.
It's not thicker, Clint. It's not, somebody bumped the light or something. There we go.
Now, this is an all-right oldest machine, so I hope it stays with us the whole way. This is blank back. And, sorry. This one, 4 arcs. We just recently named that one. Hopefully it's descriptive. And this is now called plums. Always in the past been called cattails. Not terribly descriptive because they don't look like cattails at all. This one we have just recently named as embroidered circles. That one is the tufted tropical, very pretty pin, and that also comes in several iridizing techniques. Turban, that was named by Plampton and is very descriptive. This one has just recently come up with the name of veiling. It does look like a veiling material. It's not metal, it's difficult to cover. This one is 4 hearts and crosses, or 4 hearts and a cross. Comes in several different iridizing patterns. Garden path. There's a large flower in the center and with what is used to be called a path around which covers her. moray beetle, attempt to get away from moray beetle, some type of taxa. And this is spider, and there's some question as to the iridizing on it. I'm sure there are some iridized, the body is. This one is now a beetle, called also scarab shell, because it has no legs. And the bell, again, for some not present, and bell is a very fitting name for it. This one we had called banded grapes, but the grapes turn out to appear to be much more like a berry, which is a very good one. Squares and triangles, the descriptive pattern. It deserves a very pretty name, but that one's about it. Concentric circles, because there are other pieces that fit vertically much better. Crisscross, this is just a lathe type pattern, plant timber. Dragonfly, this is an innovation, but the dragonfly is a common name to it. Butler's mirror. This has a beautiful dome to it with a little Greek key pattern on the outside of it. Now some of these slides are a little, yes. Top of the morning, this has been quite a discussion on that one. Troco is, again, sort of the moray pattern, much like tufted troco. This one is called Egyptian butterfly, and it is very reminiscent of the representation of Egyptian butterfly. And this is just a little rooster. There are 2 or 3 other patterns with rooster, but this one has no adornment. That's just a group picture of the rooster, trying to show some of the separate colors. Triad is a very delicate, very pretty little pattern. There's the fly shape in the center is a very pretty pattern. This Kuda's hat, the picture does not do it justice. There are pins up here. And this is a beaded pin that you'll find many, many varieties of them. The beaded pins were, an awful lot of them were made by the home handicrafter. And this is an owl. Unfortunately, someone made a button. And that's our sole possession is an owl. Now here's a real one that belongs to Sherry. Very, very good picture of that. This one is a clasp, there has a clasp one, it was a Hatpin, and we've named that one Embroidered Rose. So, this again is Sherry's, and it's a new pattern. It's a recent find, if you will, from that pattern. It's called Premium. I have a number of accessories that use the Hatpin on them. This is just a large button. This is a cape clasp. The ornament itself overlaps the other half of the cape clasp. This picture shows the back of it to show how it's attached to the head, to the cape. Just another button. Again, has a very good Hatpin button in the center of it. And this is just an interesting piece. There's a little sewing kit that someone probably made to carry in their purse, and it carries all these little accessories. It's a pretty little thing, I think. Now into the Hatpin holders, we've got the good examples down here of everything, like I said, except the form. And these are the most of them. I think you recognize the patterns anyway. I can't see them that well from this show colors, but it's very difficult to show colors, say, just as a picture in this one. Sit down. Now, these pictures are all pictures of the Hatpin holders that had. Not that we have. That is the form. It's a pretty pattern. It's a Hatpin piece. The flowers on this are the tree, if you will, is all iridized just in rings. The whole thing didn't have the same color iridizing. I think that's it. The Hatpin is, I think, an interesting addition, along with the Hatpins, however, just like I showed the buttons, the little accessories are all iridized, all Carnival. Very, very interesting pieces. And they certainly accent your Carnival collection. Hatpin holders, most everyone has a Hatpin holder sometimes. You have to have a Hatpin to go in it, you know, to really show what it was. Now, all you have to do is explain to your friends what Hatpins were. But I think that we've got an awful lot of pleasure out of our Hatpins. Most of them are very pretty. Some of them are unusual. I have a particularly unusual one I'm really proud of. It's called a fly. And that was an award for the last time I did this. But needless to say, it's a new one. It's circa 1991. It is unique now. And who's to say that some handicrafter back in the early 1900s might have made one of those himself if he had a plastic wing that looked like his ear eyes. But we hope that a lot of you have interest to look in the little flat glass cases and the little corners in all of the antique booths that you go to. You'll find that, well, you know, there's some Hatpins there. And once in a while you find one that's quite unusual. Meanwhile, when you get the normal ones, they're very pretty. The prices on Hatpins is varied very widely. In the last couple of years, well, it's varied more highly than widely. They're growing. There seems to be a growing interest in them. And as an accessory to the Carnival collection, it's turned out that it's a very nice addition. Hope you all find your own, and hope you enjoy them. Are there any questions that we can pose?
I was in several antique shops. They all have the same money. I was just wondering if they are
I would be the last one in the world to say that they're not anything reproduced. Reproduction, however, generally you think of as to use a mold that exists. If they have a mold that existed, that verifies that there were some made in the United States. You know, probability it would be interesting to find some. I'm not aware in any way of Carnival glass molded Hatpins being reproduced. That doesn't mean they're not. I don't know of anyone can answer that. Definitely not, but I think they could very if they had one, they could very definitely say yes. Jerry?
Well, Clint, there's a man who belongs to the Hatpin Club, lives in San Francisco. His first name is Rex, and I don't know the last name is. He's not making Carnival glass ones, but he is making some beautiful new Hatpins.
Right.
And there was beetle coming out of Taiwan, the same time as the pink one, and the dark blue, but they're not iridized.
Do they resemble these closely enough to confuse?
Well, yes, except they're thicker. They're like the new glass. They're about twice as thick as the old ones and not being iridized by, and the cone on the back is not good.
Like the old Carnival glass, the best way I know of to guard against reproduction is familiarization with the old Carnival. Now, that's not to say that there are not craftsmen out there that can make any piece right now as good as any piece you have in your collection. Why? Now, it has to be profitable.
As I said, these were not Carnival.
Okay. It is very easy, for instance, to make any type of the beaded pieces. You can buy the beads right now. No telling when a lot of the beaded ones were made. There was not much demand for them after around 1930. But the handicrafters made hatpins of the non-iridized variety. You can look at this small collection of them and see a number of pins in there that any person with skill of any type could make. And the beaded pins are especially that way. And many of the beaded pins actually have a wooden core that you can add to. So, needless to say, any good handicrafter can make those. No one, well, you have to have a need. And if you reproduce something for sale, it also has to be profitable. So there undoubtedly will be some, but not in, I wouldn't think in huge quantities. Anyone that can find otherwise will, again, would be very interested in learning. I'm sure that you'll cover this in your book. Anyone else? Feel free to look. I ask that you don't handle these 4 hat-pin holders on this end. Everything else, look at it and enjoy it. Thank you very much.